What's going on, everybody, and welcome to a special episode, our review, finally, for Elden Ring. Well, I guess I should say Logan's review for Elden Ring. If you're new to the channel, guys, welcome. This is the Experience Point. This is the XP Reviews. If you listen to this video, if you like what we're doing here, if you like what we have to say, please go over to our regular channel. Well, I guess this is our regular channel. Go over to our regular episode. We post one each and every week, so you can listen to it whenever you want to. It is a news and information, podcast. Kind of, we pretty much talk whatever we talk about, right, Logan?
I would think so, yeah.
Yeah, it gets rambly sometimes, but we love video games. We love to talk about them. So, if you like what we do here on this episode, please go check us out over there on the XP Podcast. You can find it on our YouTube and Patreon pages. Speaking of who we are, I am Mike Z, the host of the XP Podcast, and joining me for this very special episode is the lead reviewer for Experience Point, Logan, the Birdman Bergman. What's going on, my man?
Not much. Really excited to finally talk about it. Like George R.R. Martin said, I took my time, and here I am to finally release the big one, the Elden Ring review. Very excited. Can't wait to really get into it. It's gonna be a pretty deep one, not too long of one, and yeah, I'm very excited. That sounded very sexual. Sorry, but I am very excited to get into this.
It's okay. Like I said, if you like what we're doing here, please go watch the XP podcasts. New this week, our Thor Love and Thunder review, and we have our part one of our Open Critic prediction battle. You can go listen to that to your heart's content. It's a good one. Well, at least I thought it was a good one. I hope Logan thought it was a good one too. But this is not that. This is where we sit down and, to the best of our abilities, we try to critically and with as little fanboyism as we can, review video games that we have spent our hard-earned money and play them on. So, without further ado, it's been fun. Logan, take it away, sir.
All right, everybody. So, to start off the review for Elden Ring, I would like to talk about first and foremost that we will be having talk about the bosses. I wanted to explain this before I got into the cast. We will be setting up a timestamp where I'll specifically be talking about bosses and their names and what they do. I wanted to make this into a certain area for spoilers so that people want to experience this game for their own after maybe listening to this review or etc. I wouldn't want to ruin their names and what importance they have in the game. So we will be having a specific section in towards the end of the gameplay section about strictly the bosses in this game. So yeah, to get right into it. This is the first From Software game I've ever beat. This game is just, I mean, to get right into it, this game is the biggest surprise for me this entire year. If you guys have ever listened to, or if you're new to this podcast, go and listen to episode one. Because, man, I gotta say, I was an idiot. I was talking a lot of smack about this game. I was one of those people that didn't see all the hype about this game, and I just didn't really think it was going to be that good. I didn't really have a lot of hope for it. All the bad things, I was kind of just looking at those and not looking at what's so good about this game. So yeah, this is my first time playing a From Software game, and I mean, just spoiler alert, I absolutely loved this game. So I would also like to tell you what I played this game on. I played it on the PS5. I originally started playing it on the PS4 Pro version. Ended up switching to the PS5 version about halfway through the game because I just kind of wanted to look a little bit more crisp. The PS4 Pro version is fine, but I'll get into that in the gameplay on the reasoning why I did that. But I just wanted to bring that up so that people that might think I'm a little too lenient on certain things about the frame rate. It's because also I played it on console, not PC. So I do understand that there are problems on the PC port, but I did not play it on the PC. Um, so what is Elden Ring? What is the game and everything? What's the point? Well, it's a Souls-like game, where basically it is a game where you fight bosses and you move from boss to boss, and there's, beautiful art design, beautiful everything. There's a lot going on, a lot of death and a lot of challenging parts to it. Um, but yeah, let's get into like the beginning of the game. Let's start at the beginning here. I just want to give a little intro to the game, and then when I get to the gameplay, you'll understand what I'm going off of. So, at the beginning of the game, when you start off, you open up to a beautiful cinematic with it's so important to watch this too because everything about it is very important. They explain a little bit about the intro of the story, about the Erd trees and how the Elven Ring came to be. And again, I'll get more deeper in the story section of this review. And basically, you are a tarnished, and basically the Erd or the Elden Ring brought you back to basically bring everything together and break this whole big deal that's going on in the game. So, at the beginning, you are opened up to a few choices in classes, which, by the way, beautiful choice of classes, by the way, very exciting. I'll name off a few. There's the hero, the bandit, the astrologer, astrologer, yeah, astrologer. I feel like I messed that up. The warrior, the prisoner, the confessor, the wretch, which all from software people know very well. Basically, you just start off with a club and underwear, and that is the most basic start. Then there's the vagabond, which is more like a knight. There's the prophet, which is more like a monk kind of guy. Samurai, which is who I personally chose, and yeah, that's all the classes. But yeah, I chose the samurai mostly because, and this is without any knowledge, I started this game with zero knowledge. Um, but I guess I can go into real quick my past experience with From Software games, which isn't a lot. Um, I played Dark Souls 1 when I was really young. Absolutely sucked at it so bad to the point I didn't keep going. I got stuck on like the first boss and didn't enjoy it at all. And then Dark Souls 3, I got through most of the game, but I didn't really play it. I mostly was handheld by my friend the entire time. So I didn't really get a good experience of Dark Souls 3. So going into Elden Ring, I didn't know if I was gonna like it or not. It was a big bet, like I was really gambling on either this game's going to be really bad, I'm not going to like it, or I will. And so obviously I seen the samurai stuff. Favorite games from PlayStation is Ghost of Tsushima. So I was like instantly like, okay, I'm choosing the samurai. And so the beautiful thing about the intro of this game, just like the intro of this review, is right out the bat, you get put into the game, you're thrown in, no, oh, here's a objective marker, here's this, that. No, you're dropped in to this beautiful, like kind of little island on the side of the whole big map. And the beautiful thing is when you walk out for the first time and you're looking around, everything is all foggy. And all you can see is literally the path that's ahead of you. So you go down this path, you keep going, everything's kind of quiet, nothing's happening. And then all of a sudden you get to this cross and your first boss in the game shows up. And this works insanely well for a lot of reasons, and it seems to be a pretty big thing in all From Software games. But I thought this was really cool, especially how I'll explain in a second how the whole really, really is super cool. Um, but basically, I get killed in like 2 seconds. Again, I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, and I got maybe 2 hits on him, which was very surprising, and he just demolished me. And then from there, you are sent to you're dead, and you're like, oh, what the heck? Like, what the heck? What happened? And basically, you get sent to this cave, and from there, you are awakened by as the lady from the Finger Maiden, as herself. She is there with what soon will be your mount for the game, which is called the Torrent. Very exciting seeing the Torrent. Time I know again, it's a lot more big of a deal for from software fans because again, that isn't in other games. This is the first time ever seeing like a mount, and also having a jump button in general is a big deal. Um, but so yeah, you get into that, you awaken, and you're in a cave. And the beautiful thing, I'm just gonna rewind a little bit back to that fog. Well, I guess no, you know, why not? Why not? When you get out of this cave, which by the way, going throughout the cave, you'll notice that you'll be walking, and another really cool design to this beginning of the game, which I was too dumb to see, but I realized afterwards. The thing is, when you're walking through this tunnel, first thing you see on the left is this golden tree, like a little tutorial thing letting you know that there's a golden seed, which you'll need later to upgrade your health. That is the first thing you see on the left. Then your eye, unlike my eye, should go up to the top right where you'll see a shiny blue light. And you're like, what is that? How do I get to that? And you'll see this guy in a chair sitting and looking down this pathway down the cave. The beautiful thing about that is it's supposed to bring your eye to going down the caves, which was just my fault. You're supposed to go down the caves, and that's how you do the tutorial, which does a great job of showing you the fighting and parrying. It shows you stealth gameplay. It shows you your first range people attacking you. It shows you your first boss. And the boss is, he's okay, but it's a very basic boss just to show you how, you know, you're the first boss you're probably going to ever defeat in the game. So you get through that. I didn't do that. I happened to skip the entire tutorial without even knowing it. And you open the doors to the beautiful lands between, which is very exciting. And the cool thing about this, which I said to rewind to the beginning, is actually that island you start off of is literally right off of the island that you're literally in. So all that fog is gone. And the cool thing is, this is going to be a future thing. You can actually go back to that starting area and defeat that boss. And I remember doing that like 30 or 40 hours in, and it just felt so satisfying. So yeah, that's basically the intro of the game. I guess now we're going to be moving to the gameplay section where we're going to get in real deep into why I believe the gameplay in this game is so freaking good. Um, so with gameplay, basically the combat is fan freaking tastic. Um, this game's combat, it just feels so good. It works so well, and it just every bit of it just feels so just perfect. Like it at the beginning, and again for me, not from a software fan, not knowing anything, it took some time. I was getting slapped around. Mike even seen me getting destroyed by the first main boss, which is the Golden Knight, right out the front gate. Um, I wasn't great. I was very aggressive. I didn't understand how to dodge properly. I didn't really watch my stamina bar as much. But as soon as you get down, you get it down, and you start to build your character the way you want, it feels so good. The combat's satisfying. It's it's just so good. So reason why it's good. I'll start off with one of the best parts about this game, in my opinion, is the freedom of play style. You literally can play this game in any way you want. The great thing about it is like from the beginning you see those classes. That's just a beginning stats thing. It's not really you don't have to be who you chose at the beginning. I mean, heck, I ended up changing my samurai character a lot. When I started the game, I was really wanting to be a heavy weapons person. So for a good portion of the game, I was a heavy weapon person. I used heavy weapons a lot, and I had a lot of vigor. And it was basically strength, vigor, and dexterity was I was going for. But that's also because I didn't understand stats, which again when you do start to understand this game again, it's very challenging, and you do need to do some research if you want to understand or look through the menus to see how the stats work and how they build your character. But when you do figure that out, it's so cool, and it literally adds so much more just freedom to the choice of how you're playing this game. Because I was a heavy weapon person, dexterity, and then later in the game explain that'll be in the spoiler part, which is the boss one. You could change your character up, and I changed it to a dual katana, which basically brought me back to being a samurai, and that was really cool. So that's the first thing, and the another thing that also adds a lot of just great fun to like basically when you find a weapon and you find these things called ashes of which Ashes of Wars are basically these cool abilities that you can attach to your weapons in the game. They are fantastic. There is so many of them in the game, and I mean, heck, I played this for 80 hours and I still have not found probably even half of them. And they are so cool and they add so much variety to the game and they are amazing. Like the animation of some of them, fantastic. They are so cool. And the thing is that's so cool about this game. This isn't like brand new, but they have definitely added a lot to this. So from what I heard from Dark Souls 3, this is where it originally started. But this game, they let you do it a lot more, and it's a lot more freedom to where you can do it at any of your I guess they're called what is it called? I can't think of the name right now. The essence areas or whatever. Basically, when you go to those essence spots, you can actually customize your weapons there. If you get a whetstone knife, and you can actually put different abilities on any weapon in the game. And it really just well, most weapons in the game. There's some legendary weapons that have their own abilities, but those weapons just are so cool with some of the coolest abilities in the game, and they're so satisfying to use. Um, but yeah, when you get to those why can't I think of the name right now? I am I am struggling right now. What is it called? I feel so dumb for not knowing it. Oh, well, doesn't matter. I'm gonna call them Essence for right now. Basically, yeah, they're basically the camp spots like from Dark Souls games. They changed them to this. They are basically the campsites from that. So are the campfires. So at these spots, yeah, you could put like any ability on those weapons, which again further pushes the freedom of play style in this game. Because you can get a weapon and it could be I don't know, it's scaling off of like strength and dexterity. But you want to change the weapon to where it will now more scale towards a different play style. So let's say you're a magic and dexterity build. So like, you got like, you have a bunch of spells in your staff, and then you have maybe you found like an axe, but you also have an ash of war that scales with, your magic. Then you could put that on there and it adds these cool abilities. Like for example, one of my favorites is there's one where you swing your sword and it throws blood at the enemies. There's one where you could do a magic one where it throws like magic blades at people. There's one where you can do like a Hulk pound on the ground. It's so freaking cool. And there are just so many of them. Like you can, if you think of it, there's pretty much something like that in the game. It's crazy how many of these Ashes of War are in the game. But that's one big thing that adds a lot of customization and a lot of player freedom of choice on how you want to play this game. Another big addition to this game that makes this game's whole entire gameplay just so much better is that this game nails its accessibility. This is by far the most accessible From Software game to ever come out. It so with one of their newer editions, which I feel like is the most known accessible thing, other than another thing I'll bring up in a second too, is the bringing up your summons. I can't think of any of these names right now. It's the so you can summon these like ghostly, like they could be anything in game. So there's like ghosts of like enemies you find in the game. There's some one that I used a lot, which I know some from software fan people do not like, but used it because I'm new. Is the mimic tier, which basically literally straight up just summons a copy of you, and you basically have two people now helping to fight in boss fights. Um, it is so nice to have that in the game. I remember playing Dark Souls 3 and playing alone and struggling very hard. But again, I feel like I would have a better chance now. But in that past, not knowing much about From Software, not really being playing with not really teaching me anything, which is fair. It's the whole get good thing. Um, I these summons are very nice to have in the game. They help with when you're in the middle of a boss fight to sometimes take a breather and have them help you, and then you can they'll take some of the damage for you. They'll be the tank for you basically. It's very nice that they added that, and there's so much variety with you, which also adds to your play style because there's like magic ones, there's ones that are brute, very big dudes that can take a lot of damage. There's the mimic tiers like I had. There's a black knife assassin, which is someone I really want. That's like super fast. It does like an anime jump around the battlefield and then like stab them in the back and then back up. It is so cool. And these new edition is just this that whole new edition just makes the game way more accessible. I don't think it makes it too easy because trust me, there are some boss fights that are insanely hard, even with those summons. And most of the better summons don't really come towards the end of the game, anyways. So I don't really think it makes things too easy in general. But I do think those make this game so much better, a lot more accessible, and very enjoyable, in my opinion. Another one that they added was the fact that in other From Software games, when you die at a boss room, you would sometimes have to travel 5 to 10 minutes to get to the boss fight again, which would be very tedious. And now, what they did was the Stake of Maria, which is these statues of this girl that are usually near the boss fight rooms, and they're basically checkpoints, is what I'll call them. So when you die, instead of being sent all the way back to the nearest, I'm going to keep calling them essences until I finally remember the name. You actually just get sent to the Stake of Maria, which is very, very close to the boss fight, and it lets you just get right back in. And it is so awesome to see that. I will not say that that's there every time because there are a few times where I've had to still travel like 5 minutes just to get to the boss room again. I think this is a really big deal, and I know from software fans, this is a huge deal because it definitely makes the game a lot more enjoyable and it makes it a lot less tedious some of the boss fights instead of having to travel so far over and over again. So I'll probably say that's probably the end of the accessibility area, but it this game just is so beautiful on how I guess the next point is just the difficulty of this game. I think personally this game's difficulty is by far like the perfect way to make a difficult game. Like I feel like the difficulty they absolutely perfected in this game. I don't feel like there are hard things that happen in this game, but I don't think it's so hard to where it's just not enjoyable. Because the thing about this game, which is so great, Elden Ring, by the way, I haven't explained yet, is a open world from software game. So it's a open world Souls-like game. And it is just so great because let's say you go straight on ahead, you go story boss, which I'm not gonna name, and you get smacked around a bunch of times. This is so difficult. Like, why am I struggling and everything? And the great thing about this game is if you're struggling really hard, instead of just keep going forward, unlike the other Souls like games, you can go in any direction now. So you're like, okay, this dude's too difficult. So I'm gonna go explore somewhere else now and level up and get stronger and get better and learn from my mistakes and everything and find new gear and etc. And it's just so good. It's so satisfying. I know in past episodes of this podcast, I think it was one podcast where I was saying that I was struggling at a certain part. I felt like I needed to grind or farm because I thought I was struggling really hard. What ended up happening is I actually didn't do that. And ended up, I was like, you know what? I don't really want to do that. I don't want to keep fighting an enemy over and over again and grinding for, uh, what is it called? I guess I'm just going to keep calling it essence. um, but basically, I'm going to keep, I don't want to do that. It's very frustrating and I feel like that's really boring. So instead of that, I just went in a random direction and went that way. And I said, there's places I haven't and it ended up working out. And honestly, that's what's so great about this game. Yes, you can choose to farm if you want to do that, but in my opinion, you do not need to do that at all in this game. I did not farm a single time in this game. I literally went straight on. I explored everything. I mean, not everything, because game I have not seen yet, but it is phenomenal. The fact that there is no farming in this game whatsoever that you need to do. You could just go explore, you could find new stuff, and yes, there's going to be some areas that are harder than if you get past that challenge. So satisfying, and you just keep leveling up and keep leveling up. And by the way, the leveling up in this game feels insanely satisfying. It feels literally like every time you level up, you're getting that much stronger. It just feels super good. Everything about it. And then even when you get like stones to upgrade your weapons, they don't feel like a, oh hey, here's a 10% boost to your damage. Like it feels like a big boost. It actually feels like you're doing way more damage than you did before, and it's just great. Like I just feel like the progression in this game, they nailed it. Yeah, sometimes you'll go to one area and it's a lot easier because you're over level. But then you turn the corner and you're feeling confident that, oh hey, I demolished that boss, so this next boss should be very easy, right? Nope. You go into that boss room all cocky and you just get smacked around. And it's great because it keeps you on your feet at all times. Anytime you feel like you're safe in this game, you're not. Because as soon as you go into that next boss and you think it's just going to be a couple hits, they're just going to smack you around, and it's great. And that's what I love about this game. At all times, it keeps you on your feet. Every corner, every dungeon, there's an enemy around the corner. There's a trap that you need to be looking out for. It it's just so cool. It's just so awesome. And I guess that's going to bring me to the whole exploration of this game. It is I literally have never played a game with this great of exploration in a long time. Like, I think the closest game for me is Red Dead Redemption 2, but I might have to say this game is even more interesting with its exploration. It is just so jam-packed with stuff. I mean, there's still so many things I have not found in the game, and I played this game for 80 hours, and it's just so good. Like, it doesn't feel like, it's all this stuff is here just to be here to not let you keep going forward. You get the choice. You are dropped into the lands between, which is the open world, and it just says go, and you do. You see something, you go towards that direction, and you find something. It is so good, and it goes off of that kind of formula that basically Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild started. But in my opinion, even better. Well, way way better in my opinion. I personally really really love how they did this. There's just so much to see and so much to explore. There's a lot of verticality. There's like this map is gigantic. There's huge mountains to climb. There's the whole lands to look at that are super wide and just deep with so many things going on. Villages that there's like monsters and bosses and etc. There's dungeons that you can go into. There's mines you can go into. There's caves with cities and big worlds under there. There is islands off of the map that you can go to. There's a flying huge city thing that you can go to. It is insane all the stuff they have in this game, and I still have yet to explore everything. There are so many things I've still missed, and it's absolutely insane. Like it's great. I literally felt like at any moment I was going in a direction, I found something that was really cool to explore and really cool to look at and really fun to get new loot. Sometimes I'll go there and I'll get some like super cool armor and I just want to instantly put it on. Super cool to find all this random stuff. Even when you kill enemies, sometimes you'll randomly get really cool gear from them, and it's super cool. And I like that like every enemy you find in this game, when you kill them, you can get specific loot from them that's like from their like how they look. So like if you fight a soldier enough times, you'll get his whole armor set. Or if you fight the pumpkin head, is what I like to call him, you'll get his pumpkin head as an item that you can wear. It's so satisfying and so fun. Like I'm smiling right now because of how good this game is when it comes to the exploration. It is just fantastic. And the art design, mwah, dude, just freaking amazing. I cannot tell you how beautiful these places are. Yes, from a graphical standpoint, people could probably look at this and like, okay, it's a little dated. It doesn't look as good as like, Blue Point's Demon Souls. But the art style and the way they designed everything just looks so freaking amazing. It is absolutely mind blowing how good this game looks and how some of these places you just sit there and you just look at it and you're like, wow. Like, especially that area what they showed off in the trailer. When you finally find that area and you just go on that cliff and you look out and you see all this wide, vast area that you can literally look at it and go to. It's that Skyrim saying, you see that mountain? You can go to it. It is fantastic. It is so cool and very awesome. So, the next part I want to go on is the enemy variety in this game. I mean, wow. I mean, I don't think I've played a game like this that has ever had this much enemy variety. I literally all the way to the very end of the game, I was finding new enemy types to fight, new things. This game very rarely ever reuses like their enemies. It's not like oh hey, you see these soldiers, okay, that's what you're gonna see through the whole game. No, you literally will see soldiers in one part. You'll find these Black Knife assassins in this one area. You'll find these goblin dudes that do roly poly things and attack you. You'll go a different way. You'll find these huge demon dog things and demon ravens, and everywhere you go there's something new to see when it comes to fighting them, and they all have their own unique fighting styles, just complete uniqueness to how they look. And even some of the enemies they have in the game have wholly different, like totally different styles of combat that they do, even though you already seen them earlier in the game. Like every single character feels like they took all the time in the world to design their fighting style, their animations, and everything. And it's like everything you're fighting is just so unique and different, and they're very interesting to fight. They're not just, oh, hey, they walk up to you, swing, swing. No, they'll like dodge. They'll do a cool move where they'll jab into you. Sometimes they'll block you, then stab you in the chest. It is so cool. It is awesome to fight every enemy in this game. I do not, I even though some enemies I absolutely hate, I don't hate them because they were badly designed, but because they're just very difficult and they were very just so fun to fight. And not to get into the story bosses, but even some of the side bosses game in the caves. Maybe you'll be roaming around the world and all of a sudden a dragon flies down in front. Uh, all of them feel completely well. Most of them, I would say 80% of them feel completely different. Um, They all have their own unique abilities, their own ways that they, attack, and the way that they use their ability. Everything's completely different, and it's so cool too because like you'll just be randomly riding your horse, all of a sudden this freaking dragon flies in, or you'll have this like goblin or big giant dude come out of nowhere and drop in front of you. It is so cool when that happens because it's just so like it's very dynamic. It literally feels like again you're just riding and then all of a sudden you find something. It goes into not only the exploration but also the fact that there's so much enemy variety in this game. I mean, there's so many bosses in this game. It's insane. I mean, I think it's more than any From Software game ever, and it's crazy how much there is. And all of them are very satisfying to play, or to fight. And then when you defeat them, it's always satisfying. It's just so cool to see, and it's really cool to see them too later on. Like a bunch of dragons in this game that you get to fight, and they're all really fun to fight, and they're very cinematic. Like sometimes you have one that's like in the middle of this village, and then when they're like shooting fire, or if you try to hide in a building from them, they'll literally plow through that building with destructible environments, and it's so cool to see. Ugh, I just can't say much more, but it's just fantastic. The enemy variety in this game is like no other game I've ever seen before. But um, to move on to the next part is, and this is a little bit about Earth, but the weapon variety too in this game is absolutely insane. If you think of the weapon, it's in this game. They have pickaxes, axes, swords, short swords, huge swords, Final Fantasy VII long swords. They have a ton of bows, crossbows. They have like a literally a finger, a big finger that you can get in this game to use as a weapon. There is this cool corpse sword. Like, I mean, literally so many weapons, so many cool katanas, so many cool just like let's see, there's like a hammer. I mean, there's like anything you think of. It's pretty much a weapon in this game. It's insane how many weapons are in this game. And I again, 80 hours in, I'm still finding weapons in this game, and it's crazy. And all of the boss weapons, especially the story boss weapons, are like again, if you've ever seen an anime, they are literally like so anime. Like they have the coolest, most wicked and well designed animations abilities. It is just so cool. I think one of my favorites is, and I'm not going to say the name of the boss. He gets you get these two big swords, which kind of remind me, by the way, of Kratos from God of War. And when you're near enemies, you can literally do a ground pound thing that does like this burst of energy that takes the health from enemies near you, and it also makes the ground crumble and everything. And it is so freaking cool to see. Um, yeah, like just every weapon is like that when it comes to the boss weapons. The boss weapons, in my opinion, are by far the coolest weapons, but I do think every weapon still has their own cool thing to them, and it's just big variety of it. Like there's so much to choose from, and it just further shows how much variety of choice you get in this game, from your customization of your playstyle to your looks to everything. It's awesome. And I guess going off of looks, there's so much armor in this. As I say, when you kill enemies, you'll get stuff that they're wearing sometimes, or you'll even get some random cool stuff that you just were like, "Whoa, I didn't expect to get that." Or I didn't expect to find this cool thing in the middle of this cave on this random body. Like it's just super cool to find all this awesome stuff everywhere you explore and fight and etc. And then that's not even it. To even further push your playstyle, there's these things now in the game called medallions, which I guess were kind of like rings in the old From Software game. But basically, you get these medallions which further boost your playing style. So you can get ones that give like more HP, more FP, more when like someone's hitting you, you gain this much damage. If you have so much health, gain this boost. If you wear this medallion, you get more blood damage. And all these different crazy medallions that further boost your play style and further customize and change the way that you play the game. Um, it's so cool. I mean, even all the different types of abilities you get. Like there's bleeding, there's poison, there's electric, there's ice, there's fire, and I believe there's another one. Oh, rot. There's also rot, and all of them are so cool and unique. And every boss in this game has strengths and weaknesses. So you got to play for how you want. If you use a certain thing and it's not their weakness, expect a harder fight. But that's what's so cool, because every boss has this weakness and everything. And I guess to move on to that, and this isn't the story bosses yet, but basically, another cool thing they added, and this is what's so cool about this game, they literally basically took elements from all of their games and they shoved it into this one game, and it's so cool. You want to play like it's Bloodborne? Well, guess what? There's a thing you can get in the game where literally you gain health back by being aggressive the entire time. That's super cool. There, Sekiro. If you want to be aggressive again and break their what I would call invisible, um, I guess like stamina bar, like you're breaking their plays, which basically puts them to a down state, and you could do cool stab animations on every boss in this game. And I mean, every boss in this game. You could do from the first boss in the game all the way to the final boss in the game. You can get them into the down state and do cool stab animations, and it's so cool. It's so satisfying. When you finally see that moment, it is awesome. And again, further shows that this gameplay in this game is awesome. Like it's just it's crazy. Um, oh, what happened? Something went wrong. Sorry about that. So, I guess to further move, there is also platforming in this game. It is actually really fun. There are a lot of moments where like you're in a cave and you have to jump on the there's like stones and stuff you have to jump on. There's some areas that you can take to find secret things. And also with the new with to go off of platforming, with the new introduction of the horse or mount known as Torrent, which is really cool looking by the way and really badass, and has this ability where you can double jump. So you can jump and then it does this cool magic step thing that jumps up even higher. And for platforming in this game, it's actually really fun to do that. It's scary and it's very challenging, but I do feel like the challenge when it comes to that is pretty fair. You reap the rewards and you have to deal with the consequences because sometimes you fall off and you lose all of your, I finally figured it out, runes. That's what they are. So you'll lose all your runes by doing that. And but it's cool because again, it's satisfying when you do finally get there because there's always something that you're gonna find and something super cool to find and cool. And maybe even sometimes you might get into a trap and it teleports you all the way across the map. It's just it's cool. It's fun. I just want to bring that up because I know it's a minor point, but it's fun to actually do platforming in this game, and I feel like it's pretty satisfying, and I don't feel like it's too unfair. I think it's challenging but fair and definitely worth it in the end. Let's see. The okay, so and I'm gonna keep that next part. I guess that means I can finally move on to the story bosses. Which, by the way, Mike, do you have any questions?
No, not really. Are we moving on to
Oh, you don't.
spoilers?
Yeah, let's get to the spoilers.
Woo, 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 woo.
All
Spoilers.
right.
All right. Oh, I
Spoilers.
was waiting to do that.
Yeah, I know, I know. All right. So, with these spoilers, man, oh man, these story bosses in this game are fantastic. Um, they are just so good. Like they're so much fun to fight. They're very well designed. They all have a very deep character to them, and they're just all really really cool. I mean, some of my favorite. I guess I'll just go off my favorite fights in the game. One of my favorites is a dude named General Radon, which, by the way, he is a story boss, but he's an optional story boss. There are a couple um, optional story bosses, but I did actually defeat every single one of them, even the main story bosses, obviously. Um, and yeah, so General Radon is probably one of my favorites. It is literally basically an Avenger. It is literally like, hey, General Radon is Thanos, and that's how it felt. It was so freaking cool. So basically, to get in the spoiler and explain kind of what happened there, when you get to this castle that you again randomly come upon, which you do meet a character named Alexander. He's this big pot dude, not smoking pot. He's literally a pot. He when you meet him, he actually tells you about a fight festival and he's like, "Yeah, if you go to this castle down this way, actually there's a fight festival, and I'm furthering my adventure to become a better fighter." I'm like, "Okay, that sounds pretty cool." Obviously, I guess to get into a minor problem with this game is actually the quest design. Sometimes it's a little annoying that there's no way to track your quests in some ways. Like you'll get these quests and a character will bring up something to you, and there's no way to really save what they said to you. So sometimes you just gotta like remember it, and if you don't, then well, then that sucks basically. And I do feel like that actually is kind of a minor problem in my part. Like I don't think it's that big of a deal, but I do feel like it is a annoyance that you have to deal with in the game. And there are a few quests in the games that will be brought up from NPCs that you find around not only the lands between, but also the round table, which can be pretty frustrating at times. But Alexander basically tells you about this fight. You go to that castle, and there's all these people that you've met throughout the game there. There's like a wolf dude named Rain. He's really cool. There is, I can't remember her name very well, but there's a girl that helps you upgrade your spirits, and she's there to fight. And there's a bunch of other random dudes that you meet too throughout the game that I actually ended up not meeting, but they were all there in this big group, and this dude was talking about this great fight with this dude, the champion of champions, General Radon. And this dude is so freaking cool. He's super huge. He's got gold armor on with these cool like feather things on the top. He kind of looks like a Roman soldier, but like super huge. A little funny because he's riding a tiny horse, but this dude is like 5 times the size of this horse, but he's still riding around on it. And your how it goes down is you say, yes, I want to be a part of this fight festival. And you go down this elevator, and you go down this elevator to this big section of the map that's set for just this boss fight. And it's this huge battlefield of people dead and everything. There's shields everywhere. It's a huge sand pile and all these arrows and everything. And these are all champions that died fighting him. And it is so cool when you get dropped in there and you see all this sand blowing everywhere, this thing, and then you just see him on top of the thing getting mad, ready to fight you, and you see all these dead bodies and everything. And the cool thing is in this fight, which is unique compared to any other fight in this game, is there's a bunch of these summons that you can do. So like all those people you've seen before you got into that fight, even Alexander, Rain, and all, you can literally go in and literally summon every single one of those people, and they'll all be charging the hill, fighting to defeat Radon. And it is so badass. Like it is probably, in my opinion, it is definitely, most definitely, my favorite boss fight in the game. It is so cool, and it's super awesome. I do wish I was a him because he wasn't extremely hard for me. I defeated him on my like third or fourth try, I believe. But it was still the coolest fight in the game, in my opinion. It was just so cool. And honestly, as soon as you defeat it, does this dynamic thing where literally a meteor comes from the sky and it opens up this beautiful underground city, which I brought up earlier in landscapes and all that. It opens up this huge tavern thing, which furthers a quest with another character you meet in the game named Reyna, which I'll talk about later in the story and all that. But another awesome boss that I sadly, well, not sadly, that is very known as a legend is Mikela, whatever, Mikela or whatever. She's known to be the hardest boss in the game, and I still kind of wear this badge of pride. I went. So you have to go through this whole process where you go up an elevator to this. You have to find pieces to put on an elevator to go up to this different land up in a tree. It's a whole tree section of the map where you're up on top of the Erd tree, and you're going through on top of the Erd tree to finally find her. And this girl is known to be, again, the hardest boss in the game. She is super fucking cool. So she's basically she actually lost her arm fighting Radon. So that's her whole story with her. And she's like known as one of the Erd tree. And you go in and she's just sitting there, and she looks at you and she puts her arm on, and it's like all gold and everything. She looks like a kind of like a Valkyrie. And this fight is still really cool. I really enjoyed it. Um, but I did end up beating her the first time. But her fight was so freaking cool. She basically is a katana wielder. She uses bleed like I was using, and she comes at you really fast. And then her second phase is super. because she basically becomes like truly a Valkyrie. All of her armor comes off, and she gets these wings, and her wings will like make this flower that will throw like this rock cloud around her, and it's so freaking cool. But yeah, I mean, she is the hardest boss in the game, and I mean, just basically be prepared like I was, and you'll probably beat her the first time. Because yeah, I ended up beating her the first time, and it was super fun, super cool. Then I guess I'll jump to the first two bosses in the game. We have Mikala, whatever. Um, let's see. Wait 1 second. Okay, so that's what it was. Okay, so very prepared. So we have the there's what is it? What the heck? I messed up. I can't remember.
Everything all right over
Yeah, I'm struggling here.
there?
I can't believe.
What are you trying to find?
So I got it. So
Okay.
Morgot, the first dude you fight in the game. I believe that's his name. Well, I guess he looks very okay. Well, whatever. So I fought Morgot and also the king. Why can't I remember these people's names, dude? I'm struggling. Um. Oh, here we go. God, I was struggling so hard. Okay, so Margaret, the fellow omen, is one of the first bosses you actually come across in the game. He Oh man, he's a really good fight because he is your first actual story boss, and he will destroy you most likely. He's very difficult to fight. He has a very satisfying thing where at the beginning of the game he's built to basically put you in your place. You will go in, he'll fight you, and he'll basically keep teasing you and being like, wow, what a great warrior. He'll just keep talking smack the entire time. And he has an awesome entrance into the thing. So you're like going toward the castle, and he is basically the bodyguard to the true story boss you're going to be fighting later on in this, but he will destroy you at the very beginning of the game, and it's very satisfying because when you do finally defeat him, it is so cool. He has a really cool move set. He moves around really quickly. He has an ability where he'll throw his like staff at you. He also has an ability where he uses his hammer, where he brings up this like kind of magical hammer to hit you, and it's super cool. Um, and then we had the what is his name? Godric the Grafted. This dude actually is probably easily my third favorite boss in the game. He is so freaking cool. So he looks a lot like Margaret, which is like this weird Akuma. Like it's a weird looking dude. Like you see is like so Margaret has like a squid looking face. Uh, Godric the Grafted looks like an older man, but he has a crown on because he's one of the people that has a throne in this game. So he's one of the bigger deal people. But when you fight him, his first phase is he has like this axe in one hand. He has like a bunch of hands on him with different weapons. If you get into his second phase, he does a badass thing where he cuts off his hand and puts a dragon head on his hand. And in the second phase, he starts to throw fire at you and everything, and it is so freaking cool. I died to this guy like 20 times, but it was probably one of the coolest fights other than Radon and that. It was definitely one of the coolest fights in the game. It was so cool. It was so fun and satisfying too, just to beat him after that. And then I guess to move on, we have Renala, the Queen of the Full Moon. She boss fight is very cool. It's not super difficult if you know what you're doing, but it was still pretty challenging. She has a cool first phase where she basically phase she has like a bunch of her like creepy weird looking, like weird clergy looking girls and guys that are like coming out of these baby cribs, falling from top thing. Which, by the way, this really cool looking, but also really creepy. Um, and her first phase, you basically have to defeat all these people that are protecting her because they're putting like this magic spell in here where you can't hit her, and then you get her down on the first phase, and the second phase is really fucking cool too. So basically, what happens is you get teleported to this cool, like it's like this whole world where it's like, I guess if you ever seen like Kingdom Hearts or that, like you basically get sent into this world of water and everything's like mirrored, and then like it's all fog around the arena. And she does this cool ability where she uses a full moon. She'll literally pull this full moon thing, and then she'll literally like um Goku blast you with the moon, basically, and it's pretty crazy. And then she'll also start summoning enemies from the game that you've seen earlier, which is very awesome. Like she'll summon this big giant character, and it'll make things very difficult, but also very fun. I don't feel like again it was unfair, badly designed. And I guess this isn't really a story boss, but a lot of people consider it, in my opinion, a story boss. But there's called the Red Wolf of Radagon. The Red Wolf is a fun little fight too, like room. There's a chandelier on top, and it's this giant wolf that's all red and has like a knife in its mouth, and it's really fun and really crazy. The wolf is insanely fast. I don't really count it as much of a story boss cutscene, but it is a part of the on the way to get to Rella, and it's really fun still. Really crazy, really cool. But I guess to get to the next person is the I guess we're just gonna go off the list. God devouring serpent. Um, this thing was crazy. So this is a more uh it's more of like a not so dynamic. You have to use a specific weapon to defeat this boss. So it's probably my one of my least, well, it's not least favorite. It's still very cinematic and very fun to do, but it's not a very crazy boss fight, but it is still really cool. So basically you go down into this volcano, and literally you get this spear that basically shoots like this air blast thing at it, and it is super cool looking. If you ever get a chance to look at it, or if you've ever played it, you probably already know. It is awesome. You get this boss fight from doing a quest line, and by the way, the quest line is awesome. I actually really like the quest line for this boss. But as soon as you get to this boss, it is just so cool. The whole thing is very, very cinematic. It is a very by the numbers one. Like it's not difficult because you get a weapon that literally straight off at the beginning that helps you a lot, right? And it's all about you basically staying in the back and shooting these air blasts on it. Which again, it's really cool and very cinematic, but it's probably one of my least favorite boss fights in the game. But it is really really good nonetheless. Um, and then I guess we can get to the this one's also I didn't know it was a boss fight, but they count it as boss fight. The Magnum car, which is basically this. So you go up, you're going through a one of the legacy dungeons, and you'll actually run into the. It's like a big lizard that shoots fire out of its mouth, and it's in this badass little cavern with this circle thing in the middle with a bunch of chained people on top. It's fun. It's really cool. Again, I don't count it as a story one, but I guess it is considered a story boss. It was really cool though, but I wouldn't really put it on my list. Then we get Godfrey, the first Elden, which basically is a lot like the Margaret guy, uh, but he's like on a whole nother level. He's basically 11. He will basically in midway through the thing, he'll start throwing out all different abilities where he has this cool sword that looks like it's like oiled slick, and basically he'll like throw fire around everything. Again, I think he's a lot like Margaret. He's still really cool, but I wouldn't say he's one of my favorites. He was challenging. I died to him like 5 times, but again, a really fun boss fight nonetheless. And then I guess what the heck? I'm just gonna jump to the fire giant. This dude. This dude was an absolute piece of shit. Like literally, he's not the worst one, but he is definitely insanely hard to fight. You basically have to go through. He's this huge giant dude with literally a Captain America shield, basically. And basically, what he does, like like when you're a kid, you get like a little, like one of those sleds that's like a circle sled that looks like a shield. He'll literally take the snow in his arena, pile it up into a shovel thing, and then at you. And this dude was insanely difficult. Uh, I don't think he's like one of my top best people I fought in this game, but he's still really fun to fight, even though he is insanely hard. He's really cool. His second phase is a little annoying because he basically what happens is so basically you break off one of his bandages and you're like hitting him in the first phase. Second phase, he basically cuts off his legs and he's dragging his body around with a big eyeball and he's like shooting fireball stuff at you. It's pretty cool, but it was pretty difficult too. But like it wasn't the most exciting one. And then we get to the Godskin duo, which again I don't really count them as story boss, but they technically are under I guess the actual wiki and all that. It is they're they're pretty difficult, but they're basically bosses you fought a little earlier in the game. They're basically just put together and they're not bad, but I wouldn't really say they're really crazy. Other than the dude that is really weird because he's like a big fat dude with a um what is it? He's like with a little tiny sword that the Frenchman would use, and he rolls around like a roll. It's pretty fun, and he also will do a belly bop to hit you. But yeah, it's a pretty cool fight. Now, Malekith the Black Blade. This is probably, in my opinion, the hardest boss in the game. This boss, I died at least 60 times to. Absolutely insane. He, oh, he's a whole nother thing. Like in my opinion. Like he just rushes you the entire time. He's really fast. His second phase is super cool. It's cool to look at until he literally destroys you, but it is really cool. He basically shows his true self. So he's basically in the first phase as a light flex. He says, "Yeah, I'm just holding off." He literally is just wearing this cloth thing on him and he has like this dagger and he'll do these cool things where he'll stab in the ground a bunch of like knife things will pop out of the ground and come to you like a saw blade. Uh, but the second phase, when you finally get to him in the second phase, he takes off his cloak and he has all this black armor on, and he's like this very skinny wolf-looking thing, and he literally he's like Spider-Man. How fast he jumps on walls and everything! He'll jump on walls and attack you. He'll do this one attack where literally he permanently brings your health down, and it is probably, in my opinion, the most challenging boss fight I did in this game. I mean, it took everything in me to beat this guy. And again, by the way, I never used any actual people to help me in this game. I played this entire game with just me. Yes, I did use spirit summons, but I did basically play this entire game by myself. And he was hard, but I think he's actually used high for me. Really challenging, really cool. And but just know he's insane. But then we move on from there, and I'm not gonna bring this guy in here, but here's the joke of joke bosses. This dude he's this guy that betrays you towards the end of the game. He doesn't think that you could become so he pops up on your way to go fight the last boss fight, and he says, "I'm gonna stop you." And at this point, you're pretty strong. So he's actually, I think, the easiest boss in the game. Uh, and it's pretty funny. I mean, it's a good boss fight, but it's pretty funny because like he basically acts like he's way stronger than you, and you basically are the boss at that point, and you just smack him around. And then we have Godfrey the First Elden Lord, which, by the way, isn't the last boss fight. It sounds like it is, but it's not. He is the second to last boss in the game, and he is insane. If you've ever seen the picture of a dude that has a crown big tiger looking wolf dude. That's him. He is super crazy difficult to fight. The first phase, he does a lot crazy, but then second phase, he literally just says, "All right, I'm just gonna tear off all my clothes," and literally just Batista body slam you. He will literally run up to you, grab you, fly super high in the air, and then Batista bomb you over and over again. He's super difficult to fight, but I gotta admit, it was really cool. And again, it was just further getting me ready for the boss fight in the game. Super cool though. Really enjoyed it. Awesome boss fight. And again, finally fighting the first Elden was just showing you how much closer to actually becoming the Elden. I just thought that was super. And then the last one is Radagon of the Golden slash the Elden Beast. And oh man, this was actually really difficult too. But this boss fight was the only issue I had with. They had a cutscene that just every time you went in, it would basically someone would basically pull a pin, throw a flashbang in the, and you'd be flashed on your the most bright white light ever with the loudest noise. It seems like your volume on your TV gets cranked up to 11, and it does that every time you go into the fight. So, um, but it is very cool, very cinematic. I mean, this is a big deal. This is the last boss fight, so you get transported into another one of those bringing up against the Moon Lady, Queen of the Full Moon, Renala. Um, he's in this room, and there's an anvil in the middle, which, by the way, is how the Elden made. And he's like this dude that like is like deteriorating, and he has one hand, but he's like no, he has two hands, but he runs up to you like he basically um Albert Wesker thing from Resident Evil. Literally just like zoom really fast and teleport around, and then he does this like he has like a hammer that's kind of like the one that made the ring from Lord of the Rings, and he'll literally just do this golden hit to the ground, and everything's like it's just so freaking cool. Like I know it was hard and really, but it was really cool. The first phase of this boss fight is absolutely great. I think it's really good. It's very cinematic. It's very awesome into the whole story, in my opinion. It's super cool. Second phase, on the other hand, very okay. I actually didn't really like this. It's because the Elden Beast likes to play tag, is what I like to call it. You basically go up to him, whack him a couple times, he gets up and flies all the way across the arena, and you have to basically run all the way to him. And it's like, he's not bad, really cool looking. Again, it's in this mirrored fog, and he's like this he's got like all these different like spirit things inside of his body. He's like this big fat dragon. Um, he's pretty fun to fight. Again, it's very cinematic, very big deal because he finally made it to the last fight of the game. It's still pretty cool too because he actually uses Elden Ring power to hurt you, and he'll do this ability where literally a ring will spawn and come in and hit you, and it's hard to dodge. It's insanely hard to dodge, and he also does some really high damage stuff to you that can literally make you restart the whole entire fight over and over. Very annoying, but very enjoyable in my opinion. But yeah, I mean that's basically all the story bosses. Again, to overall basically put a summary, I think all the bosses in this game, even though some have their faults, some of them might be by the numbers and seem kind of basic in some ways. I think all of them are fantastic. I mean, I did enjoy all of them. I like the design of all of them. I like their move sets, except for maybe one. But I do think all of them are insanely good, and I honestly don't think the faults are that big of a deal in my opinion. I think the positives of every fight in this game, and all, especially these big fights like the story ones, are way higher than the negatives. Which before I do move on, I do want to get on to some mez, is what I would call it. The not so positive things that I forgot to bring up in the gameplay. Um, as I said, some bosses like to play tag, and it's a little frustrating and a little annoying, and I good design. And again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like, I'm not like, this is game breaking, this is horrible. I absolutely wasn't enjoying myself. I found it to be a minor annoyance. And it's mostly the dragons that you have to deal with because the dragons like to play tag where you'll go up to them, you'll hit them a bunch of times, and obviously they're dragons, so they have to fly. Clearly, they're dragons. But it is pretty annoying sometimes because they fly excessively far from you, and you have to like at least most of the game you have your horse with you. It's just the last boss fight that you don't have your horse with you, which kind of sucks. But I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is a negative that I seen when I was playing the game. Um, Another one for gameplay is some quest lines would break. I had one that was pretty annoying, and it's only one that really I had a huge issue with was this I can't remember her name very well, but it is a girl that helps upgrade your spirits in the game. And I was trying to follow the quest line. I got this flower thing for her, and it just wouldn't let me give it to her. Nothing was working. I had to bunch of stuff to figure out what was going on. And basically, if you don't do one thing earlier in the game, the second part of the game you have to do this, and it's just kind of like it's a little annoying. Which also brought up to my whole problem about the fact that quest lines are hard to track. And there's no way to keep record of what NPCs said to you. So that is one not it's not really a huge deal because it didn't again bring any big hindrance to my gameplay and my enjoyability for the game. But for certain unlocks, yes, it was kind of tedious. It wasn't a big problem. It only literally happened to me one time the entire game. um so again, it's not a huge deal. I think if they did add some kind of NPC thing where you could figure out their dialogue and keep records of that, I think that would be a great addition. But I don't think it's game breaking. I understand that and that the positive is I love that the UI is so minimal. There's not a lot going on. There's not quest markers all over the screen. Everything is pretty well done when it comes to that. I think another thing, this is kind of in the spoiler thing, I guess. Um, Characters will just die off. You'll be midway through the game and you'll be like, I'm gonna go to this guy I remember seeing probably halfway through the game. You go to him and he's not there because he's dead, and you're like, oh, okay, all right, he's just dead, and it's just kind of funny. Like again, I didn't really like it didn't really do a lot because the good thing is most of the time when those people are dead, you get these things called bells, which you can bring back to your round table that you can give to basically still get into their shop. So again, this is a very minor problem, but it is a funny and weird problem to have. I'd never expected a game to where I would literally just have characters I met halfway through the game and then just go to them and they're dead. I just thought that was funny. That was pretty cool. Another one is again not a huge deal, but it's a very minor inconvenience. Is Torrent, your horse, if it dies in the middle of a battle, instead of just letting you say, "Hey, I want to use one of my," you just click on it again and it just uses one of your flasks to bring it back. No, 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 no. They have to give you a prompt first before you can do that. So basically, you would hit the horse and then it says yes or no, and you're in the middle of a boss fight when you're doing that. That is kind of annoying. But again, not a huge deal, but it is a problem nonetheless. It's pretty frustrating too, because like you'll be in the middle of a boss fight and they'll say, "Do you want to bring your horse back?" Yes, obviously I hit the button. So please let my have my horse back. Um, yeah, that's another one. Frame rate is another one that if people watched the first episode, they remember me talking about that. Again, it's not as bad as I was saying it was in the first episode. I was making a huge deal out of that. That's a whole rant. If you ever want to go watch that episode, it's episode 1 of the Experience Point podcast. You'll see me and Mike actually argue about what I was thinking about the frame rate. And at that time, I wasn't playing Elden Ring really. No, and then I started finally playing it, and I gotta say I'm sorry for making up those, I for getting saying honestly just a bad opinion. I had a bad take on the whole situation in general. But I still will
I
bring up
forgive you.
that
Don't
it is
worry.
a yeah, I will still say it is a minor, not a bad one, and it's not really that bad. Like, yes, there's frame rate drops, but it's not that noticeable in my opinion. Um, I will still say it is a minor inconvenience. There are some frame rate drops, and some of them can be semi noticeable, but it's not so bad to the where it's unplayable. Um, but yeah, that's another one. Another one that I didn't experience, but I want to bring up because I do know it's a problem, is co-op is a tedious process. Um, they they could have designed it a little bit better. You have to go if you want to play with people, you have to put down a sign, then you have to make a code, then you have to do this whole thing, and then they finally could join you. And another like a kind of tedious thing about it is if you're not in like a dungeon or an area where you're gonna be walking a lot, you can't use your horse in co-op. You can only walk around. So that kind of sucks. But again, I don't think it's that big of a deal because as long as you use it at the right moment, it's not like you're going to be needing a co-op partner in the open world in general. But it is an inconvenience. And I do hope that they fix that at some point. Supposedly, the PC people have actually already made a mod where literally you could jump in and out and you can actually use your horse and everything. But yeah, so there's that. I think that's really it for gameplay. So I think we'll be moving on to the next section, which will be visuals, which I guess I already talked about in gameplay, but I just want to bring up a couple little points. But um, I do really, really, really like. Again, as I said, I think the art style of this game is fantastic. Um, I think there's a lot of variety of environments in this game. As I was talking about in the spoiler section, there's like a tree. You can get on top of like one of the big trees at a certain point. There is there's all the Greenlands. There's this hellish area, which actually a little bit of, which is super cool. It's like it's basically it's a part of the lands that the Erd trees actually died at. That is the reason and why they're like that. But basically, it's a barren wasteland with these demon-like creatures and people and etc. It's super cool. But like everywhere you go, there's so many different environments and things to look at. There's even basically an Eye of Sauron in a certain section of the map that you can actually see, which is pretty cool. Um, but there's like this huge lake area, which is awesome to see. It's very swamp like and everything. There's a lot of deep forest, open ranges. There's a whole volcano area. There's a huge snowy area. I mean, if you think of it, there's a game. I mean, heck, there's sand area in this game that too. It's pretty crazy the variety of locations that you get to see in this game, and I just wanted to bring that up because I do think it's very awesome to see how much variety they put into this game when it comes to its environment. But honestly, I mean, I already pretty much brought up most of the other like it's a minor thing, but I do like it. Um, since the it's we're going off visuals, as I said earlier, I think the UI is very minimal. It's very great. I think it pretty much fulfills its purpose perfectly, in my opinion. I don't think it's anything wrong. And even if, like, for example, you put down a marker on your map, which by the way, that's a whole new thing I think in this game, is the fact that when you're getting these maps in the game, you start to build this map together, and you can actually put markers on the map. And the cool thing is with the markers is actually it's not just on your map or on your compass. You can actually see a blue light shining up, kind of like how in other open world games where you'll actually see where the location is, which makes it a little bit easier to actually um, the locations you need to go to and areas to be and everything. But yeah, I mean that's really all I need to say about it. But I will say again, these visuals are mind blowing. It's basically mostly the way that they made the art style. It's just looks so good, and every area in this game, I've just been blown away by how crazy detailed it is, and just how at just how well they designed every area. Especially my favorite area is that underground city that you go to after spoiler Radon. You if you go to that meteorite location, you go down beautiful glowing blue like city to look at. Like it is awesome. Like I took a bunch of pictures of it. I just think it's super cool and it's awesome. And that's probably easily one of my favorite locations of the game. But I that doesn't mean a lot. I think every location in this game is fantastic. Like every single one of them. So yeah. But yeah, I guess we can move on to audio then. But so, by the way, Mike, do you have any questions yet?
No, I'm good. I had three of them, but you answered them all, so I don't really have
Oh.
anything less to say. So it's all good though.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, if you have any more, let me know. Okay, so we'll go to sound then. Um, so I mean, it's probably doesn't. It's not anything uncommon for people that are already from software fans because I feel like every game has a beautiful soundtrack. Um, but for the people that do not know much about From games, I gotta say this game, just even just starting up the game for the first time, you're in that menu screen. That menu music is so amazing. The theme song to this game, the main theme, everything is so freaking good. Like, I mean, you want to talk about a song that gets you hyped up to get right back into the game and start fighting. That's the song. And they also play that theme at the very end of the game when you fight the last boss. It is so awesome. And actually, a big thing about the sound in this game, and it's really crazy, is when you do these boss fights, the music actually goes with the boss fights and their move sets and everything. So it actually syncs up with all their moves and when they're going to attack you. So you can kind of go with the music, and it's very like rhythmic, and it just feels really good, and it's super cool. And just everywhere you go has just the coolest soundtrack. Like when you go down in the underground section, it has this very calm but really mysterious sound, and it's really awesome. The theme song when you're fighting, story boss in the right area name starts with an R. His phenomenal. It shows that like, hey, this is epic fight. This is his big challenge to win. Like it just feels so good, and it's so and everywhere you go, the music is just phenomenal. And obviously, well, not obviously, but also the weapons and the abilities that you use in this game sound very good. When you use spells, they're very punchy. They're very just, it's just super cool to see in general. But and then obviously incantations, especially when you use the drag incantations, which by the way are really cool. Basically, an entire dragon head pops out of your head, and you can shoot flames and everything. And that is such an awesome sound, by the way. um just yeah, everything about this game, like everything about the sound of this game is phenomenal. And again, they deserve props. Like this is probably one of the most epic soundtracks I've ever heard. Not well, yeah, it's easily one of my favorites now. Like definitely easily my favorite. But yeah, I guess that's pretty much it for sound as well. I'll kind of go quick into the story though, real quick. Not really a lot to say, but I will give you this. Um, George R. R. Martin is actually the one who wrote all of the lore for this game. So if you're a big George R. R. Martin fan, that's a pretty big deal because they actually built the game around the lore. George R. R. Martin was the first one who started to write the lore, and then whatever he wrote down as the lore, he worked with them, and they built this world around it. Um, and there's a lot to see. I'm not going to say I know everything about the lore of this game. There's a lot to it. And if you really want to know it, definitely look it up. But basically, the basics is basically you're tarnished. You're brought back by the Elden Ring. You basically are tarnished, trying to basically become the Elden Lord. And basically, you need to bring, I guess, like peace to the lands between. You need to defeat all these champions, and finally, in a sense, spoiler alert, bring the Erd Tree down to do so. And it's really cool. And there's a lot of, I think, probably favorite little quest lines I did was for the, can't remember their names, but it's on the lava part of the map. There's this group of people that are against the Erd Tree, and they actually want you to hunt down other tarnished, and it's super cool because you basically become bounty hunter. And what you do is you go to all these locations and you go to fight these other tarnished. They're not actual players, which you can do if you want, obviously. Um, but what you're doing is you're fighting these NPC tarnished, and it is so cool too. Like it's so much fun. All of them are basically boss fights on their own, and they're all really challenging and really fun. Because I mean, again, they have basically the same abilities you do, other than see, I mean, they're like actual players. So yeah, it's, I think that was really cool, and that's how it brings up to another fight. But yeah, um, I mean, that's really all I have to say. If you do want to look up Elden Ring's lore, I think it's really good from the little bit I know. I can't say I know everything about it, but I will say it is fantastic from the little bit I know, and the game is great by itself. So I guess we can go now to the outro. Um, so
You gotta put a score on it first.
I know I was gonna say my,
Oh, okay, fair
yeah,
enough.
yeah. So for my overall thoughts of this game, and also by the way, thank you for everybody who has made it all the way to this point. I do really appreciate it. I appreciate you understanding my faults and my problems, and also mispronouncing a lot of these things. Uh, I don't know why I forgot all of them, but basically, my overall is Elden Ring by far is the biggest surprise for me this year. The lands between is a breathtaking sight to behold, with a wide variety of environments and an impressive amount of reality. Exploring, fighting, looting, and leveling up has never felt this good in a game before. The satisfaction of defeating a boss you've been fighting for the past hour is truly satisfying. This is a must play in my book. Expect a challenge though. So, yes, Elden Ring is a masterpiece and will for sure go down as game of the year for me. And I am going to give it the first 10 out of 10 for us. It is going to be getting the platinum trophy. So yeah, um, applause for Elden Ring, because honestly, dude, this game, I, it's mind-boggling. But again, I guess we can go on and do our intro then.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the Birdman Logan Bergman's review for Elden Ring, a game that he liked just a little bit, not too much or anything like that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
appreciate you guys listening to us and following along. If you want to hear more from us, like I said, go over to our weekly episodes called the XP Podcast, where you can listen to us talk about all the news stories and happenings inside and out of the video game world. With that being said, we hope to see you over there. And as always, before we end the episode, we'd like to thank our platinum Patreon subscribers for the month, Mr. Logan Leffler. We appreciate you as always. If you want to be a part of the discussions for each and every episode, week in and week out, you can go over to our Patreon, search Experience Point, spelled XPERIENCEPOINT. Give us some money if you want to, or don't give us some money. We don't really care. It's there if you want it. However, please strap in and come along this ride with us, and we hope to keep you engaged throughout it. And anything else to say?
No. Thank you again, guys, for coming by, stopping by, and listening, even through again all my faults and making mistakes. But I do really hope you enjoyed. And I also hope that you might go purchase Elden Ring after this review. I'd really appreciate if you guys have any thoughts or maybe some differences that you think about this game. Make sure to comment down below. I do appreciate other opinions, and I'm more than open to hear what you think. But yeah, as always, I'll see you guys.
All right, with that being said, with all that out of the way, once again, Thank you guys for joining along with us, and we'll see you all on the next one. Bye.
See ya.